Okay, how to write a mini literature review. This is part of the research proposal that you're writing. So you have the introduction, followed by the literature review, followed by the methods. So I say it's a mini literature review because usually literature reviews are really long, but yours will be limited to 5 to 6 pages plus references. The literature review is not a list describing or summarizing one piece of literature after another. So what I don't want you to do is read the 10 papers that you have and you summarize each one after the other. Okay? I want you to evaluate the major points of the papers and then write it all in a different format, which we're going to go through in just a second here. The literature review should help you understand the topic better, and it will demonstrate your knowledge on the topic of your choosing. It brings the reader up to date on what has been done before and what you will want to do. So what's the function of a literature review? Don't say to review the literature, but pretty much that's what it is. It is a summary of the literature that has been done before. So it's snapshots into the some of the major papers, major concepts, and it's more so even evaluating the literature. So it's not just a summary, but it's evaluating the major points of the different studies that have been done before. So it should show relationships between the different studies. For example, if there have been different methods that have been used in the different papers, or there have been similar results or different results, you should be able to show a relationship between different studies. And especially in a research proposal which you're writing, you should be able to show how the published work relates to your work. So once you go through your literature review, always go back to say, how does this relate to what you're proposing to do? So reviews must be accurate. So you want to be the fact checker. You know, in the political campaign now, we have fact checkers everywhere, and that's what you want to do for your own research proposal. So make sure your citations are correct and the findings attributed to authors correct. And it must be complete, so all the important papers should be included, but not every paper written on the topic. So you want to be a little bit selective of which papers you will include in your literature review and which you will leave out. What questions do literature reviews answer? They answer all of these 6 or more. What do we know about the area of inquiry? So the key concepts, the factors, the variables. What are the relationships between the key concepts, factors, and variables? What are the current theories? What are some of the inconsistencies and other shortcomings that you can find? And you can be critical in this. What needs further testing because evidence is lacking, inconclusive, contradictory, or limited? And why study this question further? So see how it would relate back to your introduction. In your introduction, you also had a little bit of background information. What were the gaps of knowledge in that background? And why do you want to study this further? A good literature review is focused. Always remember your purpose of why you're writing your literature review. So if you have a specific hypothesis in mind or a specific question in mind, always read with that question in the back of your mind. And then also write with that question in the back of your mind. So always relate back to your work. The writing process can be quite extensive, and you want to start earlier rather than later. You have enough time to write 5 to 6 pages on your literature review before the due date. But you want to start early and not the night before. Do not procrastinate, because you will have to collect a lot of information before you even start writing. Collect information from peer-reviewed journal articles, books, conference proceedings, government and corporate reports. So all should be sort of peer-reviewed or by some other researchers or other scientists. Again, don't use online writings, personal opinions, health magazines, articles. Don't use any of those. And then you have to analyze all of your papers that you just collected. So which of those are actually relevant to your topic? And then you want to arrange those papers, and you can write an outline of your literature review, and then arrange your papers by the different research ideas for each of the paragraphs that you'll have in your review. Summarize and use transitional connections between paragraphs so that it flows really nicely and you know where you're going with that review. How do you organize paragraphs? So in general context, you always want to start with a broad statement, a broad general statement, which is a topic sentence that introduces the theme of the paragraph. And then for each paper that fits into this paragraph, you want to briefly summarize the study, very briefly, and then discuss what the findings of the study were. So you want to be sufficient yet succinct in what you're including about the details of the study. Explain the significance of the study and why you included it in your review at the end of the paragraph. And make sure you transition between the paragraphs to help the reader see where you're going. I pulled a few papers and found a lot of examples. So this one is one. High intensity interval training, HIIT, is emerging as a potential time-efficient strategy for health promotion. So that's the topic sentence, and it very nicely summarizes what will be the theme of the study, the theme of the studies that you're including in this paragraph. Current recommended guidelines of 150 minutes of moderate physical activity per week is reduced by half to 75 minutes if the week's activity is done at a vigorous intensity. And then you have the citation, ACSM from 2014. Right? So then you're going through the different studies and explaining why high-intensity interval training is a time-efficient strategy for health promotion. Another example. In the past decade, low cardiorespiratory fitness has garnered considerable attention as an independent and powerful predictor of cardiovascular disease risk and premature mortality. Okay, again, topic sentence, starting with a broad general statement of what the theme of the paragraph to follow will be. For example, Williams in 2001 showed in a meta-analysis that there was a precipitous increase in relative risk for cardiovascular disease in the lowest quartile of cardiorespiratory fitness. Okay, so then after the topic sentence, you would summarize quickly the different studies that fall under this theme. A few hints what you want to do on the left side and what you do not want to do on the right side. So you want to read the most relevant papers on the topic, but you don't want to read everything that's known about this topic. So be selective in the articles that you choose, but make sure that you're not biased either by what you're reading. So if you have already a strong opinion on something, make sure you include some of the papers that confirm your suspicions, but also the ones that you might not completely agree with. So get a balanced review. Do write many drafts, and do keep a bibliographic information for every source. So write down where you got it from. Organize your literature review by ideas, not by the papers. So again, I don't want to see a summary. Williams in 2001 showed this, a whole paragraph on that study, and then Johnson in 2002 showed this, and then and so on and so forth. So it's not just a summary of the different studies, but you want to organize your literature review by ideas, so spanning over multiple studies. Of course, use formal style, not the informal style. So it's always in third person and not in first person. There should never be an I in a research proposal or a literature review. Always start, even at the beginning, start to write. You don't want to read everything and then forget the first few papers that you read and not write anything down.